So, without further ado, I would like to introduce our presenter today. Danielle is here from Parker Dewey. I'm maybe positive that everyone has at least heard about Parker Dewey. So I won't have to kind of do a deeper dive on what the platform is, but I would like to introduce Danielle. She's gonna go over the platform, answer any questions that you have towards the end, and it's all yours, Danielle.
Thank you so much, Bridget, and hello, everyone. As Bridget already shared, I know most of you, hopefully all of you, have already heard a little bit about Parker Dewey before. So what I'm going to do with my time today is not the overview necessarily of the student experience or how it benefits students. If you have any questions about those things, always happy to connect one-on-one. But since this is the Employer Engagement Task Force today, really going to focus on how it works for employers, the benefits employers for employers, the intended usage by employers. Now, even though everyone has that basic introductory knowledge of Parker Dewey, do want to do a quick overview just to make sure we're all starting from the same place. Basically, our goal at Parker Dewey is to help make the college to career jump more accessible and more equitable, and we do that through micro internships. These projects are short term, they're paid, they're professional. So, delving in a little bit to those elements, they're always focused on a specific deliverable as opposed to ongoing responsibilities, which makes them really short. When the student or recent graduate is done with the project, they're done with the micro internship. So usually there's somewhere between 10 to 40 hours in total, and the majority of our projects are also remote. So the students do get the chance to connect with the professional at the start of the micro internship. So they're expanding their network and they're asking questions. But as far as when the bulk of those 10 to 40 hours take place, it's really up to the micro intern. Whenever it fits in their schedule, as long as they're hitting the deadline, wherever they happen to be, as long as they have a reliable Wi-Fi connection. These can be posted at any time of year. They do not have to align with the academic calendar. And another hallmark of our micro internships is they are always paid. One of our goals is accessibility, and we know a lot of students can't afford to spend time on something unless that time is compensated. So, where that pay comes from and how it works, companies can create their accounts and post their projects at no cost or obligation to the employer. And what I mean by that obligation part, if they post an opportunity and they don't get any candidates they like, they can close it and they don't owe anyone anything. It's genuinely risk-free. But since students are usually pretty excited to engage in this way, most of the time employers do end up making a selection. And only when they do that does the employer receive an invoice from Parker Dewey. They pay us, and we take care of acting as the employer of record. So, what that means is we're getting the micro intern's payroll information, we process the pay to them when the project is done, and if they earn above the threshold, the micro intern will also get their tax forms from us. The micro interns are all independent contractors on Parker Dewey's books, and 90% of what the company has paid ends up in the micro intern's pocket. The 10% difference covers the cost of Parker Dewey acting as the employer of record. So, why is it set up this way? One, it makes everything far easier for the employers. As I'm going to talk about today, the employers are typically using this as a recruiting tool. So they may hire 5 or 10 micro interns with the intent of selecting 1 or 2 of them for longer term roles. So the fact that we take care of all that onboarding administrative for them so they can test talent out makes things far easier for them. On the student side, it also allows them to try out things with different companies without having to do an onboarding process at each one. And if that student maybe wants to try out working with an entrepreneur or maybe with a small company that they don't know much about, they can do that with confidence, knowing this isn't an identity scam. The only people that need their pay information is Parker Dewey. So it just allows them to try different things without some of those fears that might otherwise be involved. The projects are always using skills or knowledge that students would be developing in their degree programs. So we see things from all different types of industries, business, operations, analytics, marketing, creative. But you won't see things like paint my fence or walk my dog. Nothing wrong with those things, just not what Parker Dewey is for. And ultimately, these projects are allowing employers to access some of those students that may not have otherwise had the time or been in the right location or had the awareness to engage with that company. And it's allowing the employer to assess based not just on a resume or an interview, not just on a GPA, but on real skills. Is this student or recent graduate going to be a good fit for something longer term? Basically, we're trying to give everyone the chance to feel each other out so everybody, students and employers alike, can make more informed decisions about next steps regarding longer term opportunities, like traditional internships and full time roles. As promised, what are the purposes for employers? Hopefully, while I was describing it, some of these were coming to the forefront of your mind, but really like to break down that when it comes to micro internships, the project is great, but it's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal are the insights that the employers gain from seeing the students do those projects. So we see employers use micro internships really in one of two buckets, but the big bucket is for recruiting. Now, in that bigger bucket, we see two sub buckets typically. So, one is for those employers who have a specific role they're trying to hire for. This could be a traditional internship, it could be a full time role, but they want to make sure that when they make that longer term hire, they're making the right hire, not someone who they're going to realize 3 months in is not a good fit and then have to start this process all over. And micro internships allow them to do that. When we see employers using micro internships in this way, they'll usually hire 5 or 10 micro interns. They'll all do the same project, and then that company gets to look at the results to see who has the skills that are going to be a good fit for the longer term opportunity I'm trying to hire for. Even the students who don't end up getting the longer term offer are still getting a paid professional experience. Essentially, they got paid to interview, so everyone is still winning. For those employers who are realizing, oh, if I wait until junior or senior year, I'm actually missing out on some great potential talent. We also have the other bucket, which is for folks who are trying to expand their pipeline and build awareness. There are a lot of amazing students out there who may not be aware of certain industries or companies or opportunities until they've already declared their major and are maybe closer to graduating. So, for that talent, companies are realizing, well, if I post some straightforward micro internships, things that a student in their first or second year could reasonably do, that is allowing me to get in front of that talent early in their career. They're getting some experience, they're getting paid, but most importantly, they're learning about my company. So, if they realize that their skills and interests are a good fit for this industry, they can then make decisions about majors and courses with that opportunity in mind. So those are our two big buckets for recruiting. Then there are always going to be folks that maybe don't have longer term hiring goals. They might just have a project that they know would be appropriate for a student or a recent graduate to do. In our opinion, the student is still, well, not opinion, it's a fact, the student still gets paid experience. So those folks are welcome to use Parker Dewey too for just get stuff done needs, but the primary goal is recruiting. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm usually pretty good about keeping an eye on the chat, so please don't feel like you need to hesitate if you have questions. Um, Pop those right in there, and I am keeping an eye. So we know employers often like numbers, so we have some related to micro internships. One is that they are really cost effective. We have seen that the vast majority of recent graduates who have done micro internships, about 98%, are likely to stay in their first full-time role for longer than a year. That is nearly double when you look at recent graduates overall. A lot of students don't stay longer than a year in that first full-time opportunity. But micro internships are allowing students and recent graduates to have a better understanding of where their skills fit and where they're going to be able to see themselves growing for a little while. So, all that to say, it leads to less turnover, and turnover is expensive. So, that leads to cost savings. Again, micro internships move quickly. So, sometimes employers might think, "Oh, it's an extra step." But when they post a project, they're usually able to make that selection within a week. The projects are usually straightforward, again, 10 to 40 hours in total. Some projects will turn around in as little as a few days, others might take a couple weeks. But even when compared to traditional hiring processes, this is fast. And again, they're getting really valuable insights into those student skills that are going to allow them to make those more informed hiring decisions. It's really easy for employers to incorporate into different phases of their recruiting process. We'll see some student or employers who will use micro internships as a draw to come to their table at the career fair, letting students know they intend to hire a micro intern from the folks who visit their table. Or if they make a great connection after speaking at a class or being on your campus and they want an immediate next step to engage that talent so that relationship doesn't go cold, a micro internship is an easy and effective way to take that next step that's going to be accessible to just about any student. Or if they've already engaged your student in an internship and they said, this is someone that we want to hire longer term, a micro internship is something students can do even during the academic calendar year, again, to keep those relationships warm. So when that student is thinking about their longer term goals, that company continues to be at the front of their mind. So now I want to share some examples for our employers that want to use it for that first bucket to make sure that when they are making a hire, they're making the right hire. Sometimes they might struggle with, well, what project is going to allow me to figure that out? And that's where Parker Dewey comes in. We have been doing this for, well, since 2015, so it's been a while, and we have yet to come upon a role or an industry that we haven't been able to identify a micro internship for that would help assess for the necessary skills. So here's just one example. Let's say you have an employer that's trying to hire an entry-level data marketer. If you tell them, hey, Parker Dewey can help you do that, we'll ask for the job description. So here's an example of some of the things involved in that role. They're going to need someone who can gather and analyze data, someone who knows how to make meaningful comparisons, can effectively communicate recommendations. So we can take those different elements of whatever longer term role they're trying to hire for and turn those into specific projects that will allow the employer to see and assess the required skills. So in this case, having a student do a competitive campaign analysis. It's not giving them the keys to anything confidential. It doesn't require any sort of long-term onboarding or being in the company systems, but it's going to allow the employer to see, do they get what we're trying to do? Do they have the skills I need? And make hiring decisions based on that. We have another example, or an example for the folks who are trying to confirm fit. Smith and Nephew was a great one. They were having trouble identifying talent for their rotational program. Even though they're a pretty big company and a great reputation, students just didn't necessarily know who they were. So they posted micro internships. They had a project saying, pick one of our products, they're a medical device company, and just put together a pitch deck for that product. Now, again, the projects that they actually got, yes, those were great. They got to see from an outside perspective what the appeal of some of their products were. But the real benefit of the project was getting to see that talent skills in action. Of the 12 micro interns they selected, there were 6 of them where they said, this talent is amazing. We'd love to have them on our team. For the 6 they extended offers to, 5 accepted. Because in the process of doing the micro internship, even though Smith and Nephew wasn't on their radar before, after this project, it definitely was. They'd learned about the company, they'd learned about their products, they'd made a connection with a professional at the company, so it made a meaningful difference in their likelihood of selection. And this was all accomplished for significantly less than the traditional recruiting costs. And after 1 year, all of the recent graduates that they ended up hiring were still at the company, showing again that recent graduates who have engaged in micro internships significantly less likely to have quick turnover after they've been hired. For that second bucket under recruiting, for the building the talent pipeline, we've seen companies like Train who have posted straightforward projects for campus ambassadors. They might hire a first or second year student, meet with that student and say, hey, this is what our company does. This is why you and your peers should be excited about us and have us in mind when you're ready for traditional internships. And then they have the student share that information on their campus. By doing that project, that student is learning, they're building awareness for the company amongst their peers, and down the road, there's a good chance that student may be a good fit that they had as the micro intern or any of the ones they shared the information about. Everyone is winning. We also see other companies that will post projects that aren't necessarily utilizing technical skills that students may not develop until their junior or senior year, but are using these projects to assess those soft skills. Straightforward projects like research or making communication recommendations or reviewing something and making suggestions. It's going to allow the company to see, is this person a good critical thinker? Are they a good communicator? Again, get them in their awareness and pipeline rather early. We see that more than half of the recent micro interns who have taken our post survey indicate that one of the outcomes from their micro internship was becoming more familiar with a company that they didn't really have on their radar previously. And that's something that we see consistently with micro internships. Students are far more likely to apply for a micro internship with a company they didn't already think about than they are to apply for a job or a traditional internship with a company that wasn't already on their radar. And that makes a lot of sense. These are very low commitment, they're short, they're flexible, so students don't feel like they have to have a lot of background knowledge to take this step. All that to say, if you have employers that are trying to reach new talent and build that awareness, this is a really effective way to do it. And then some more numbers. Already talked a little bit about that retention of recent graduates who have done micro internships and why that leads to cost savings. But something else we're very proud of at Parker Dewey, the different demographics that micro internships allow employers to engage. When we look at micro interns, those who have been selected, more than 80% of them are coming from historically underrepresented populations in the workplace. So again, for your employers, if they're telling you, I really want to reach some different demographic or maybe some talent I haven't seen with my traditional methods, this is a fantastic way to do that, especially when you compare that reach to traditional paid internships. Because when we look at traditional paid internships, there's no question that those experiences are impactful. And this is where I also like to highlight again, micro internships are not designed to replace traditional internships. They're designed to be a more accessible entry point for more students to get to those longer term opportunities. But even when it comes to paid internships, it's great that they're paid, but if the student doesn't have time, if they don't have transportation, if they don't have awareness of the opportunity, they're not accessible in the same way that micro internships are. And we've seen a lot of companies from different industries see and recognize these lessons and use them to effectively hire. And again, for those companies who maybe don't have the longer term hiring goals, they're welcome to use it too. They can hop right into posting opportunities, and I'm going to show you how to do that here just in a second. But for those that do have the recruiting goals, want to really emphasize that we are here to support you. We want to be a partner in engaging your employers and having conversations. And we see right now in the hiring landscape, it's really nuanced. There are a lot of employers who are maybe struggling with just a ton of applications. So they're trying to figure out, how do I sift through this mountain of resumes? We have other employers who are still trying to build their brand or looking to reach different demographics. Every employer has their own unique challenge. The good news is micro internships can help with all the challenges I've just shared and more, but it's important that we understand their goals so we can really frame how Parker Dewey can help. So that's where you have resources like your employer-facing page. This breaks down some of those ways micro internships can help. But even more importantly, it gives you a form. So any employer you introduce to Parker Dewey, we know, all right, they are associated with Lark. We're helping them post projects for Lark students. But we can have those conversations with them, understand what their unique goals are, and set them up for easy but impactful micro internship success accordingly. So as promised, do want to show you real quick too what the process of posting for employers looks like, so you're armed with that knowledge. From your page, you can see different examples here of projects they could post, but they are welcome to post a custom project as well. I'm going to use one of the templates just for the sake of showing how easy it is to use our templates. And any projects posted from the Lark page are also preset to exclusively be available to talent from Lark schools. Now, I apologize, my Wi-Fi is moving a little slow today, so I thank y'all for your patience. But when this loads, it's going to show the preset title of the project description, and we've already ballparked roughly how many hours a project like this would take. So if the employer has additional context they want to add, they are able to do that. They can adjust the start and end dates based on their timeline and needs. If there is something about the project that requires it to be on site, they can indicate that as well. But most of our projects, for accessibility's sake, are remote, and that's what we recommend. It's very transparent here what the costs of using micro internships are. We encourage that the student earn somewhere between $20 to $25 per estimated hour. So in this example, a 20-hour project, they'd earn $400. the total cost, which includes covering the cost of Parker Dewey acting as the employer of record, is about 445. And if they are using it for longer term recruiting and they want to hire multiple, this is where they can easily do that. Now, again, there is a cost associated, but this cost is primarily going into the pockets of your students while simultaneously leading to more impactful and correct hiring decisions. So, from the perspective of employers, especially with how this reduces turnover, this is money well spent. Now, down here is where they can decide who sees the opportunities. As again, since we're coming from your page, it's preset, so this project would only be available to talent affiliated with Lark institutions. But if the employer wanted to feature it to one Lark school or maybe just a couple, they would also have that ability. They can also clarify, do they want to engage just current students? Maybe they're trying to audition for a traditional internship, or do they only want to connect with recent graduates? Maybe they're trying to make a full-time hire in the relatively near future. We do love it when employers let us know if they are using this to hire for something specific. And they can ask additional questions, but they can't change the first one, which is why do you think we should select you? We found that the answers to those questions are usually really good indicators of who should be selected. So, this is a really good question to practice with your students. The responses do not need to be, nor should they be, essays. Short is great. 2 to 4 sentences can be very effective, but if you can help your students practice giving an example to support their answer in those 2 to 4 sentences, we've seen that can make a real difference. I'd also like to emphasize that we're keeping an eye on everything too. When they hit post now, it doesn't actually post now. What it does is it sends it to our team, and we're going to review the description and what is in this section to make sure that whatever they're asking for can reasonably be completed in this amount of time and that the compensation is appropriate for the estimated number of hours. We're also going to double check that whatever they've described does indeed have a specific deliverable that makes it a micro internship. And once all those things have been confirmed, that's when students can see the opportunities and start to apply. So hopefully this information was helpful, really focusing on that employer perspective. If you take just one thing away from our time this morning, I hope it's that if you are collaborating with employers and they are looking to hire something longer term, encourage them to use micro internships as the first step. This isn't just another thing to do in addition to everything else. This isn't just getting a project done. This is a way for them to access talent, assess them in a meaningful way, and make the most informed hiring decisions possible. Right, y'all were quiet in the chat. So, questions, thoughts, anything at all? Oh, and I had a poll for you that I almost forgot to put in, not necessarily a poll, but a survey. Would love, since I know, there's some staff that comes to these, some faculty, maybe a student now and then, if you could fill out that survey to let me know, which category do you fall in? How would you prefer to get more information about micro internships going forward? And now that you've heard the intended uses for Parker Dewey micro internships, how you see yourself sharing it with employers in the future, would absolutely love for you to take that survey.
This was helpful, Danielle, to be able to kind of go along with you page by page and see. For me personally, it was very helpful.
Well, I appreciate the time. If anybody wants to do a similar session specifically for your employers, we're always happy to do that too, or we're happy to have a collaborative conversation with you and one of your employers. We have done a couple of employer sessions that were LARC-wide, but as I've been meeting with some of you at individual schools, I have gotten the sense that y'all are swamped, and many of you did not have time to really understand what Parker Dewey micro internships were before those sessions happened, much less actually promote them to your employers. So, if there is any opportunity in the future, we are always happy to do those things again.
Yeah, I'll just chime in, Danielle. This is John at LA Southwest College. We've had this conversation. You're completely right. We are swamped with things that need to be delivered, and I think I told you I think Parker Dewey is the exact way for students, especially at LA Southwest College. We have a lot of students with no experience, and as we all know, employers really hesitate to bring someone on who hasn't done exactly kind of what they're looking for. So I love the idea. It's just been the onboarding of the whole system, communicating it out to students. I mean, there's huge need, but spending the time among all of the other deliverables that we have to set up everything, get the employers onboarded, which is another ask for employers, which we already have so many. And so I guess just streamlining that process. But again, I think Parker Dewey is a great resource. It's exactly what our students need. They need to be doing these micro internships. I would say more than half just don't have the experience that they need to be moving into other jobs. So half of our students that come in the Career Center could use it.
And it can be so difficult to get students engaged if they don't feel like they immediately see the answer. So, to your point, the employer
Yeah.
engagement first to make sure we have the students in there is really key. But you've got so many other things you're trying to speak with employers about and get them to do. So, another resource I want to share, and I'll put this link in the chat. Is our employer conversation guide, because you are not the only folks to have those challenges or just have too much on your plate. I think if I've talked with you one on one, you already know I come from career services myself. So sometimes when our team is like, just have them do this, I'm like, listen, take figuring out parking for the career fair is like half of their brain right now. They don't have space for that. So we have created this employer conversation guide, and we have hired a member of our team in October to focus exclusively on those employers introduced by our partner schools, including the Lark schools. So when you meet with employers and you're asking these questions that you're probably already asking for all the other things you need to talk to them about, when you identify what their goal is, whether it's to make more informed hires, whether it's to reach new demographics, whether it's just to do more with less budget, something a lot of folks are struggling with right now, you can click on that. It's going to give you examples of how Parker Dewey helps, or the bullet points, a real example, and then it's going to give you something you can copy and paste in a follow-up. And if you CC in our team, we will take it from there on the Parker Dewey front. So all you need to do is have that initial conversation, go listen, this is what we talked about, and then we will take it from there. So hopefully that helps with the bandwidth issue a little bit.
Can I just ask a practical application for that? So I have a job fair on Tuesday with about 30 employers that are going to show up. I don't know if I'll have time to have the conversation, but I do have a welcome packet for each one coming in. Do you have a printable version that I could add to um, the welcome packet?
Yes. So for all of you as Lark schools, you either have or could have, let me know if you want it and don't have it, access to our partnership checklists. In this annual must-dos, you're going to see an employer-facing flyer, and I can put the direct link to this one in here. You also have the ability to customize it. So this one right here would send your employers to kind of our main Parker Dewey page. I will customize this if other folks would want it too for just the Lark page in general. In fact, I think we might have a version of that already. I'll look for it. Bridget, I'll send it to you afterwards. If you could include that in the follow-up, this is going to break down for employers, what Parker Dewey is, how it's going to help them, how they can build this into their recruiting strategy. So very timely example, John, for after the career fair. This is going to highlight how they can use this as a next step, and gives them some more information about exactly what this is. And then we'll put the link to that Lark page at the bottom.
Yeah, that'd be good. Like you said, just getting them in parked and knowing where their table is and all of that, that's gonna fill most of my conversation. I won't have time to talk to them about this, but I'm happy to include it into their welcome packet as a resource for them to connect with the school on micro internships.
Right, on the day of, who has time for anything? But when you're doing follow-ups, if you send out a thank you email, this is another thing that you could pop into the thank you email and say, as a next step, we'd love for you to engage some of the talent you met at our fair. So if there's anything ever like that where you're like, hey, I think Parker Dewey could fit in here, but I don't have the time to figure out the wording or how, that's where we come in too. So please don't hesitate to use us. Thank you so much for the great points, John. I really appreciate it. Right. Anybody else have anything I could be helpful with today? Right. Well, I will let you all continue with your meeting and I will make sure that that follow-up flyer goes to Bridget. Thank you so much for your time and happy Friday.
Thank you, Danielle. I'll make sure to include the survey in the follow-up email, just in case everyone hasn't gotten a chance to complete it today.
Perfect. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. So we will move along. Please email Danielle if you need me to kind of assist with the conversation and how she can support you and your school and your students in any way so everyone can utilize the platform a little bit more. I would be happy to do so. So just let me know. Um, If you, I'm gonna open up, I'm just opening up her link that she's shared. I'll send it all in the email. If anyone would like to, we're moving along to point five, but if anyone would like to share any discussion points or resources, campus events that you're having, please unmute yourself. Like I said, this is a collaborative open space, so we'd love to hear anything that you're doing on your campus or with your students. Um, I see Helene drop something. So I'm gonna mute myself back. And Helene, if you wanna share this or you just want people to click the link and they can.
Yeah, no problem. So this is actually for manufacturing and healthcare employers. So if you know any organizations, any employers that are focusing in these two areas, but maybe they could be a great fit for apprenticeship, or they don't know a lot about apprenticeship. We're doing like a big apprenticeship 101 type of session, a networking event, all virtual next Tuesday. We will have another one in May, so this isn't the only opportunity, but feel free to share this out. Could be a great way that, they can learn about apprenticeship and just see if it's the right fit for them.
Thank you. I'm gonna include the link to the LAX internship and the Port of Long Beach application link in the chat. Anyone else want to share out any exciting news? John, I know you said that you're having a job fair on Tuesday at Southwest. Is that open to all students or that's just focusing on students at that campus?
No, students and the community, anybody's welcome to come. We've even invited the DEO and others, so it's everybody's welcome. I'll share that with you. It is a reentry job fair, so we have some resources to kind of eliminate barriers that students and community members might have to prevent them from getting a job. So it's and then employers that um, are background friendly as well.
Perfect. Thank you. I also received an email maybe like 5 minutes before we hopped on the Zoom in regards to a job fair centered around veterans. So I'm going to pull it up and I'm going to include that also in the chat. If you have any veterans that are looking for employment, they're having a job fair. I do believe, here's the flyer right here. I'm going to take a moment just to copy it and put it in the chat. Um, Give me 1 second. But while I do that, would anyone else like to share out?
Good afternoon. This is Christopher with Rio Hondo College. We are planning to have on May 6th, and I just put a flyer in the chat. CWE Job Fair. It's from 11 till 2. It's focusing on our CWE programs, and it's open to the public. Anyone can attend the job fair on May 6th.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you, John. I see it. I'm trying to download mine here.
I was going to add this, I'm using Handshake for all the registrations and everything like that. So this is one of the first times I'm using Handshake for all employer and student registrations.
Nice. After it's over, Chris, I would like to hear your feedback and how that was a little bit different from the previous fairs in using Handshake.
Okay. Yeah, before we'll use like Microsoft Forms to register, so this will be exclusively Handshake.
Nice.
Chris, if maybe after that's over, I would love to spend some time with you. I hear that your handshake is looking great. I would love to kind of learn how to model um, ours at LA Southwest College, maybe after what you're doing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it is quite a learning experience, I have to
It,
say.
it
I learn
is.
something new every day, every time I use Handshake. So yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah, when they require an academy to learn it, then it's going to be extensive. So yeah, but if it sounds like you've learned it and you've applied it, and so yeah, if you don't mind, I would love to spend even just 30 minutes or an hour with you to see what you've done and how you've done it.
Sure, not a problem.
Great. I'll reach out to you through email.
Thanks, John. I do think that that is one bonus of being able to participate in this employer engagement task force meeting, to be able to collaborate with other individuals at other campuses to hear about what they're doing,
Yeah.
what's working for them. So just being able to share, I think that will continue to keep this work moving forward because it's not easy.
I
But to know that also you have the support from someone else and being able to kind of just hear extra thoughts and kind of bounce ideas around each other. This is kind of why I love this space, to
I
be able to
see
do that.
I see Hara in the chat. So Chris, it might be you might be a thought leader in this space to teach all of us.
Oh, sure, not a
Yeah,
problem.
that way you don't have duplicate meetings. Let's do a collaborative meeting around
Oh, sure.
handshake if you're
Yes,
open to it.
invite everyone. So, okay.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
And have a
Show
handshake
off a
support.
little, Chris. Show off how well you're doing over there.
It will be a